Hello everyone, welcome to our new session. Today we will be discussing value at risk, which is probably the most important concept from examination point of view, as well as forget about examination means when you go into financial sector, you start working in financial sector. At least once in your career, you will have to come across a job which have to do with value at risk. It is such a widely used concept for quantifying the risk in a financial institute. So it's very important that we focus a lot on this, not only from your examination point of view, but actually from your knowledge point of view when you enter into your job arena. So let's start. So how we have divided this, since this is a very important concept, we have created two classes for this. One, we will be discussing theory where we will cover all the concepts. Second, we will do a workshop using Excel where we will go through all these concepts, see them running in live environment, build our own models for VAR. Basically there are three main models, delta normal, historical and Monte Carlo. We will do all these three in our workshop. We'll create Excel models for all the three in the workshop. But before that, let's start with the theory so that you are familiar with the concepts and workshop becomes more fun and more of a learning experience. So value at risk, it basically tells how much emergency cash a firm needs to have to cover for their losses. So it has three components. One is a loss amount, which tells how much could be a loss. For example, 40,000 is my loss. Randomly taking a number, 40,000 would be my loss. But then till when? Till today, till tomorrow, till next minute, in 1 year, in 2 years, 10 years. So if somebody comes and say me, your maximum loss could be 40,000. So the first question that you are going to ask is, in how much time? Because if you are talking about next second, it may not be that possible. But if you are saying next day, it is much more possible. If you are saying in next 10 years, then chances of having losses more than 40,000 are also there. So a time frame is another parameter or a component which plays a critical role. Then third is your confidence level, which is basically probability. Since I'm predicting my loss for next 1 day or next 1 week or next 2 weeks or next month, year, etc., I am forecasting, and forecasting is certain or uncertain. It is uncertain, so there is a probability attached to it. That's why a confidence level, which is nothing but a glorified term for probability of my prediction being right. What is the prediction? That in so and so time frame my losses could be this much amount. Okay, so let's say my losses are 40,000. It's just an example, and my confidence level is 95% and time frame is 1 day. What exactly does it mean? It says that there is a 95% probability that by tomorrow I will not face a loss of more than 40,000. Okay, so that's basically its meaning. And technically, if I have to say, I'll say my 1 day VAR at 95% confidence level is 40,000. So this 40,000 helps firm define their emergency cash. Okay, so firm will keep this much amount as their capital, assuming that they might end up needing it. Okay, so now the next question that comes up is, where did this 40,000 come from? Time frame I can define that I want to see losses till tomorrow or till 1 year or whatever, and I need to be 95% sure or 99% sure. But then how do I get this amount? That is the main question, and that comes from model. Okay, which model? VAR model. Let's see what are all the VAR models. So there are three most important VAR model, the three standard approaches. One is delta normal, the other one is historical, and third is Monte Carlo. So in these three, even in these three, the most important one are historical, which is like the most important. Every bank in the world uses this approach. Equally important is Monte Carlo, which almost all the banks uses it, but it is used to supplement historical. We'll see what exactly that means, but as of now understand that these two are most widely used, and they are generally used together to come at a optimum number. And then some of the smaller firms also uses delta normal VAR. Okay, let's start and go into somewhat details of all these. We'll go into absolute details of all these in our workshop when we will do live modeling, but as of now let's understand the basic concepts of all these three. Let's start with historical simulation. Now as the name says, historical, so what it says is just take the observation, record the observations that have happened in past. Observations of what? I am concerned with returns on my portfolios. That will tell me how much I am gaining or losing on my portfolio. So I'll keep a record of all the observations in past. Generally the requirement is at least 1 year. You take the data of at least 1 year, which has been increased recently to up to 3 years also by most of the regulators, but still at least 1 year is bare minimum for all the banks, irrespective of what market they operate. So let's say I keep recording all the observations for last 1 year, and then in that I will arrange them in ascending order, and basically from the best day to the worst day. Best day is when I have got the maximum return in plus, and worst day is when I have got the maximum return in minus, which is basically the best day is most profitable day and worst day is most loss day, when we had maximum loss. So I arrange them from best to worst, and from that, depending upon my confidence level, if I am saying 90% confidence level, I will take 90th or rather 90% of the value. If I am saying 95%, then I will take 95th percent of the value. What exactly it means? So let's try to understand with this a very small example. So I'm doing an observation for 10 days only. My portfolio value is $1,000, and these are the returns that I have got in last 10 days, which is 2%, 4%, 6%, 8%, 10%, minus 2%, minus 4, minus 6, then minus 8%. This is minus 8%, and then minus 10%. So these are 10 observations. So if I have to find out 90% confidence level var, then I will take 90% of these observations, 90th percent of this observation, which is basically the ninth observation, 9 out of 10. So ninth day, when we have arranged this data in ascending order, basically from the best to worst, my ninth day would be -8%. Out of 10 days, my worst day is -10%. So then second worst day is -8%. So my var basically at 90% confidence level var, one day 90% confidence level var becomes 8% of my portfolio value, which is basically 80 rupees or $80 in this case. I hope this very small example is clear, but even if there are some doubt, no worries. When we do the entire live modeling, we will see how to choose the value. But idea is, if I have 10 observation, pick the ninth if it is 90% var. Now, best thing about it, basically the benefit is that there is no assumption regarding the data. These are actual data. All your all the variances, all the assumptions regarding distributions, all the assumptions regarding correlations, everything has been captured, because this is the live data that you are capturing. So every possible permutation combination of assumptions, regressions, distributions are captured in this. Problem is, it assumes that past is the future, which is generally wrong, because every time the stress situation is different. 2000 currency crisis, sorry, the Asian currency crisis was different, magnitude of losses were different than your financial crisis in 2007, 2008, and then this health crisis that we are currently in 2020 is even far more severe. So every time situation is different, especially during the stress scenarios. So assuming that past is future is not the best case. So that's the drawback of historical simulation. Okay. Any other drawback that you can think of? Assigning same weight to all the data. So let's say if I am calculating 3 year, I have 5 years of observation, then what has happened 5 year back may be less relevant than what has happened yesterday. But then in historical simulation, we just assign the same weight to each and every observation, which is not the right thing to do. But it could be overcome by assigning weight to each day, which basically is called as hybrid historical simulation. So in that, bank chooses how they need to give weights to all the observation based on their recency. So more recent observation are given more weight than the observations that are far off. But any example that you can think of where hybrid model will fail? Suppose I'm in 2020 now, when we are struck by health crisis, this coronavirus crisis. If I have to give weight based on recency, I will give more weight to data in 2019, and 2008 is very far off. So I will give very less weight to 2008. Whereas this situation, if not same, is much more similar to 2008 than 2019. So this hybrid model weightage becomes wrong. That's where another model comes in, which is called as MDE, which is multivariate density estimate, in which banks are allowed to give weight not based on recency but based on cluster of data which best suits their need. So in this case, bank can say I'll give weightage to data in 2019, let's say 0.1, just randomly saying some number, but my weightage for data in 2008, even though it is very old, I will give it 0.5. So that becomes your MDE. Okay. Anyways, we'll see all these in workshop, but as of now, just understand the concepts. Okay, now let's move to delta normal. So this is the formula which defines your normal distribution. So normal distribution is defined by two parameters, which is mu, which is your mean, and your sigma, which is your standard deviation. Now if I have observation of returns on my portfolio, can I not find its mean? You can find it using average function in Excel sheet. Can I not find its standard deviation? You can again use stddev in Excel, or you can do all those, you can calculate variance and then find out standard deviation of it. Once I have this, and then the other missing thing is, which is your return is this, is calculated using this formula. You have this, you have this, only thing missing is Z, which comes from your confidence level. So if I am saying 95% confidence level, all I am saying is use Z is equal to 1.65. How 1.65? Because this is going to be one-tailed test, because I am only concerned with the left tail. Why? Because in VAR I am only concerned with the losses and not the portfolio, or not the positive returns. I am predicting my losses, so I am only concerned with the left tail. Simplest to implement, very simple. Problem is it assumes normal distribution of return, which is wrong, especially in the products which has options. So for even for share price and normal bond price, it's fine. It's almost like a normal distribution, even though it's not a normal distribution, but still it will gives you a good approximation. But let's say you are doing a bond, callable bond or a puttable bond. You have a means bank has all kind of products in their portfolio. So if I have to calculate VAR of a portfolio which has like puttable bonds, callable bonds, or let's say which have stock options, call options, put options, then this approach cannot be used. Okay, then comes your Monte Carlo simulation. In this we generate random samples, but not any random sample. It is based on the historical data. How does it generates? Through a equation called as Brownian motion equation, mu plus z into sigma. So this mu comes from your historical observation, this sigma comes from your historical observation, and then Monte Carlo simulates this z. It keeps assigning random values to this z to find out returns. Let's say return 1, there was a sample value, random sample value 1, which gave me a return 1. Then it will create another sample value, then it will give me return 2. It will again create generate another random value, it will give me third return, fourth return, fifth return, so on. Let's say till 100 return. And let's say if I have to calculate 95% VAR, I will take the 95th value, provided these has been arranged in a order. So again we will do this in Excel sheet with a limited data, because its problem is it needs to generate huge amount of samples for this to work. But we will do it with smaller set of data so that Excel do not crash and we are able to show the Monte Carlo simulation. Good thing is it is futuristic. It is using the historical data to generate future data also. So it is futuristic. Problem is it needs expensive softwares and servers because it needs huge processing power. So smaller banks may not opt for this. They may prefer doing delta, normal or historical. But most of the large banks in the world, they do Monte Carlo simulation as well. So there are few more concepts which we need to understand, which are very important in VAR calculation before we close this theory class. One is the bootstrapping. Now it's not always possible that my observations, amount of observation which are needed from a regulatory point of view. Regulator generally says that calculate VAR with at least 3 years of data or 5 years of data, with minimum at least 1 year of data. But maybe there could be a case that I have created a portfolio which is only 10 days old. So I have only 10 observations. So what do I do? Let's say I have to find out VAR based on at least 12 observations. That's my requirement. But I have observation only for 10 days because my portfolio is only 10 days old. So in that case we will do bootstrapping, where I will find out 11th and 12th value based on the previous values. How? By randomly picking one of the values from the previous 10 values. So in this case my 11th value would be, I'll pick up any of the values randomly from these 10 values. Let's say I pick up this value, so my 11th value becomes 2%, and then I randomly pick up another value, let's say minus 2%, my next value becomes minus 2%. So now I have 12 observations. So think of this where we have done some probability questions. I think everyone would have done their these things in their school times, where you have these questions like what is the probability of picking up a blue ball given replacement of balls is allowed. So you pick up one ball, you put it back into that stack, you pick up another ball from that stack, you keep it back, then pick up the third ball. So this is typically what you are doing. You are randomly picking up an observation, and that observation can repeat again. Okay, now you have enough observations. According to this method, you can increase the number of observations, and then you can calculate VAR using any of the previous methodologies. Another important concept, which is expected shortfall. So in VAR, what we have seen so far is that my losses, it tells me that 95% or 90% of the time, or even 99% of the time, my losses will not exceed a particular value. But what if it exceeds? There is a 10% or a 5% or a 1% chance that losses will exceed. That's what your statement is. I am 99% confidence, 1% there is a chance that it could exceed. Then in that 1% of time, what would be your maximum loss? So that is given by expected shortfall. And again, it's not a rocket science. All you do is, let's say you have a 20 observation, you have a sample of 20 observation, your portfolio value is $1,000, and you have these returns. Now you're calculating 90% 1 day VAR, which means basically 18th observation, 90% of 20 is 18. So you take 18th observation, given they are already arranged, it comes out to be -6%. Now I'm 90% sure that my losses will not exceed $60, but I'm 90% sure. But in 10% of cases where it exceeds, then my losses could be average of rest of the observation. In this case, we have left two worst case observations, which is -8% and -10%. We take average of these two, it comes out to be -9%. So it comes out to be $90. Okay. Now it depends upon the firm whether they want to hold $60 as safety money with them, or they want to hold $90 with them, or they want to even hold more than 90. So this is one of the simplest method of doing expected shortfall. There is another method where you do a stress VAR. In that case, what you do is you take a period of stress. Let's say I'm in 2020, I am calculating VAR. I want to calculate what would be my maximum loss given I exceed 95, means I'm wrong, given I'm wrong, basically, which is 10%, 5% or 1% chance. What I'll do is I'll run data for 2008. Let's say 2008. I'll say that was my worst period. During that period, whatever is my maximum loss, I'm not going to exceed that. I will use that as an expected shortfall. So these are generally the two approaches that are used to calculate expected shortfall. Then when we go into workshop, we will see how we find out the expected shortfall also. So this is all about the theory. Then as I've been saying in this session, do not miss the workshop. Please attend the workshop, you will love it. All the concepts that we were discussing today, you will see them happening live with live data. So it would be very interesting. But till then, thanks for your time, and that's end of this session as well.